Commander Park Geo stood at the large window of the space station, watching the stars. His uniform felt tight around his neck as he prepared for another important meeting. 5 years had passed since he married Nari, a diplomat from the alien species called Valians. Nari entered their quarters, her skin shimmering with a soft blue glow that all Valians possessed. Her movements were graceful as she gathered her official documents. "You look worried," she said, noticing the crease between his eyebrows. "Just thinking about the Orion Treaty," Geo replied, though his thoughts were elsewhere. Their marriage had begun as a love story, but had slowly transformed into something else, a political arrangement that kept two species at peace. When humans first met Valians 10 years ago, both species were cautious. The Valians offered advanced technology that could solve Earth's energy crisis. Humans offered military protection against the aggressive Krell Empire that threatened Valian colonies. Their alliance made sense on paper, but cultural differences created tension. Then Joe met Nari during a diplomatic mission. Their connection was immediate and surprising to everyone. Their wedding became a symbol of hope for both species. "The Admiral wants the report by tomorrow," Geo said, changing the subject. "Will you be at dinner tonight?" Nari touched her ceremonial bracelet, a symbol of her high rank. "I must prepare for the Orion delegates. They arrive tomorrow, and this treaty is critical for securing the outer territories." Geo nodded, hiding his disappointment. This would be the third dinner she had missed this month. He understood her work was important, but lately he felt more like a roommate than a husband. "Of course," he said, "duty comes first." What Geo didn't understand, what no human fully comprehended, was how Valian marriages worked. When Valians chose a mate, they formed a biological bond. This wasn't just emotional but physical, a connection in their nervous system that linked them to their partner. In Valian culture, marriage wasn't just a promise. It was a biological fact. Nari felt Geo's disappointment through their bond, but misinterpreted it as stress about work. She placed her hand on his cheek, her touch slightly warmer than a human's. "When the treaty is signed, we should take leave," she suggested. "We could visit the ocean settlement on Proxima IV. You said you wanted to see the floating cities." Geo smiled. "I'd like that." The station's communication system beeped. "Commander Park to the bridge," announced a voice. "Always something," he said, straightening his uniform. "I'll see you later." After Geo left, Nari sat at her desk, reviewing treaty details. Her species had strict rules about honesty and loyalty. Betrayal was not just emotionally painful, it triggered biological changes. No Valian had experienced these changes in centuries because their culture valued fidelity above all else. Nari had never explained this fully to Geo. Humans seemed to understand marriage differently, and she didn't want to burden him with the knowledge of what would happen if their bond was ever broken. The biological response, called Caridian, was something modern Valians discussed only in historical contexts. On the bridge, Geo was introduced to the station's newest officer. "Commander Park, this is Lieutenant Kim Do-wee," said his second-in-command. "She's transferred from the Lunar Defense Base." "Outstanding record." Lieutenant Kim saluted sharply. She was attractive in a subtle way, with intelligent eyes and a confident stance. "Welcome aboard, Lieutenant," Geo said. "Your reputation precedes you. Your work on gravitational weaponry is impressive." "Thank you, sir," she replied. "I'm eager to implement some new defensive strategies here." Something about her reminded Geo of his early days in space service, the excitement, the ambition, before politics and diplomacy had taken over his career. That evening, Geo ate alone in their quarters. He looked at the empty chair across from him and felt a wave of loneliness. He loved Nari, but sometimes he wondered if their marriage had become more symbol than substance. Meanwhile, in the diplomatic wing, Nari felt a strange sensation, a slight burning across the bond she shared with Geo. She paused in her work, confused by the unfamiliar feeling. Among her people, such sensations were warning signs, But having never felt them before, she dismissed it as stress from the upcoming negotiations. Neither of them realized that their relationship was about to be tested in ways that would shake the alliance between their species to its core. 2 weeks passed since Lieutenant Kim Do-hee joined the station. Commander Park Ji-ho found himself looking forward to their shifts together. Unlike many officers who treated him with careful distance because of his marriage to a Valian diplomat, Do-hee spoke to him naturally. "Sir, I've analyzed the data from the nebula," Do-hee said, entering his office with a tablet. Her uniform was perfectly pressed, but she had a way of moving that made even the stiff military clothes look graceful. "What did you find?" Joe asked, gesturing for her to sit. "Strange energy readings. Nothing in our database matches it." She leaned forward, her eyes bright with excitement. "I think it might be evidence of artificial structures." Ji-ho studied the graphs on her tablet. "This could be important. Let's keep this between us until we have more information. Some of our allies might get nervous about new technology in neutral space." "Of course, Commander." She smiled, and Ji-ho noticed how it changed her face. "I appreciate your trust." Their meetings became more frequent. They often worked late, analyzing the mysterious data. Sometimes they talked about Earth, a subject Ji-ho rarely discussed with Nari, who found human history confusing. "Do you miss Korea?" Do-hee asked one evening as they reviewed sensor logs. "Sometimes," Joe admitted. "The food mostly. And springtime in Seoul. My grandmother still lives there. She sends me kimchi on supply ships." Do-hee laughed. "The delivery crew probably hates me for making their ship smell." "Worth it, though," Ji-ho said, smiling. "Real food is better than anything from the station synthesizers. I have some. Would you like to try it? I could bring some tomorrow." The next day, they shared a small meal in his office. It reminded Ji-ho of home, in a way that made his chest tight with unexpected emotion. Meanwhile, Nari was buried in negotiations. The Orion delegation was difficult, demanding greater access to Valian technology without offering fair trade. She worked 18-hour days, falling asleep at her desk, more often than in the bed she shared with Ji-ho. One night, she woke suddenly with a sharp pain across her chest. In Valian physiology, the mate bond created physical sensations when something was wrong. But Nari had never experienced this before and didn't recognize the warning. "Probably just stress," she muttered, taking a medicine that dulled the sensation. She returned to her work, pushing the discomfort aside. Ji-ho found himself creating reasons to work with Do-hee. When a junior officer could handle a task, he assigned it to her instead. When meetings could have been conducted by communication screen, he scheduled them in person. "Commander, I've been meaning to ask," Do-hee said during one late evening session. "Is it difficult, being married to someone so different from yourself?" The question caught Ji-ho off guard. Few people asked him directly about his marriage. "Different can be interesting," he said carefully, "but sometimes it's challenging. Valians see the universe differently than we do." "I've heard they don't really understand humor," Do-hee said. "That's not entirely true. They have humor, but it's based on mathematical patterns and linguistic precision. Not exactly laugh-out-loud funny by human standards." They both laughed, and Ji-ho realized he hadn't laughed in weeks. "I'm sorry," Do-hee said. "I shouldn't talk about your wife this way." "It's fine. Sometimes it's nice to talk to someone who understands human perspective." As Do-hee gathered her tablets to leave, their hands brushed. The contact was brief but sent an unexpected warmth through Ji-ho's arm. Their eyes met, and for a moment, neither moved. "I should go," Do-hee said softly. "Yes," Ji-ho agreed, but he didn't step back. The station's alert system broke the moment, announcing an upcoming maintenance cycle. Do-hee quickly moved toward the door. "Good night, Commander." After she left, Ji-ho sat at his desk for a long time. He told himself that nothing had happened, that he was just enjoying a colleague's company. But deep down, he knew he was lying to himself. That night, Nari woke again, this time with a stronger pain spreading across her chest and down her arms. She sat up, breathing hard. In the darkness of their bedroom, she noticed something strange. Her fingertips were glowing more brightly than normal, with patterns she had never seen before. She knew the stories from Valian history about what happened when mate bonds were threatened. But surely that wasn't happening to her. Jiho was a human, after all. The bond couldn't work the same way with him. Just diplomatic stress, she told herself again, taking the stronger medicine. But as she drifted back to sleep, part of her knew something was very wrong. The research station orbiting Proxima IV had reported unusual gravitational readings for 3 days. Admiral Han decided to send a small team to investigate, and Commander Park Jiho was the obvious choice to lead the mission. "You'll need a weapons expert," Admiral Han said during the briefing. "Those readings could be from Krell technology." "Lieutenant Kim would be ideal," Jiho suggested, perhaps too quickly. "She's been analyzing similar patterns from the nebula." The Admiral nodded. "Take a small ship, 2 days there, 1 day for investigation, 2 days back." Jiho found Nari in their quarters, preparing for another diplomatic session. Her skin seemed different. The usual soft blue glow now had faint patterns rippling across it. "Are you feeling well?" he asked. "Just tired," she said. "The Orion delegates are being difficult." Jiho hesitated before telling her about his mission. "I have to leave tomorrow. Gravitational anomalies near Proxima IV." Nari looked up sharply. "That's near Krell territory." "We'll be careful," he promised. "It's just data collection." Nari approached him and placed her hand on his cheek. Her touch felt warmer than usual. "Something feels wrong, Jiho. I can't explain it." For a moment, Jiho felt guilty about how much he was looking forward to working alone with Doi. He pushed the feeling away. "It's a routine mission," he assured her. "I'll be back before you finish with the Orions." The next morning, Jiho and Doi departed in a small research vessel. The ship had only one cabin with 2 sleeping pods, a tiny command center, and a small kitchen area. Their shoulders often brushed as they moved through the narrow spaces. The first day passed with professional discussions about the mission. They analyzed data, prepared equipment, and maintained a respectful distance. But by the second day, something had changed. "Tell me about your family," Doi said as they shared a meal. "Not much to tell. Parents were both military. I have a brother on Earth who teaches physics." "No children?" Doi asked. Jiho shook his head. "Valians and humans can't have children together. Different biology." "Do you regret that?" The question hung in the air. Jiho had never admitted to anyone that he sometimes imagined what it would be like to have a family. "Sometimes," he finally said. Doi's eyes met his. "I've always wanted children. A little house somewhere with trees. Not very ambitious for a military officer, I know." "It sounds nice," Jiho said softly. When they reached Proxima IV, they discovered the gravitational readings came from a new type of mining operation being tested by human colonists. Nothing dangerous, just poor communication with Central Command. That night, after confirming their findings, they celebrated the successful mission with a bottle of rice wine Doi had brought. "To easy missions," Jiho toasted. 2 glasses in, their conversation turned personal again. "Can I ask you something, Commander?" Doi said. "Why did you marry a Valian?" Jiho stared into his glass. "I loved her. It seemed simple then. She was brilliant, beautiful in her way, and we shared ideals about peace between our species. And now? Now it's complicated. Our lives have moved in different directions." He looked up at Doi. "I probably shouldn't be saying this." "Maybe it's the wine talking," she said with a small smile. Jiho moved closer to her. "Maybe." When their lips met, Jiho knew he was crossing a line he could never uncross. But in that moment, he didn't care. Doi's warm human touch, her familiar scent, the way she responded to him. It all felt like coming home after being away too long. Across 3 star systems, Neri was addressing the Orion delegation when pain exploded through her body. She collapsed mid-sentence, her skin suddenly blazing with bright patterns that pulsed and swirled. The Valian ambassador rushed to her side, immediately recognizing what was happening. "Get a medical team," he ordered, but his eyes told a different story. This wasn't a medical emergency. It was the Caridian response, the biological reaction to betrayal that no Valian had experienced in generations. As the confused human medics tried to help, the Valian ambassador sent an urgent message to their homeworld. This was no longer just a personal matter. When a Valian diplomat underwent the Caridian transformation, it became a matter of interspecies politics. On the small ship returning to the station, Jiho and Doi maintained professional behavior, but everything had changed. Neither spoke about what had happened, yet both knew it couldn't be undone. As they docked at the main station, Jiho was surprised to see Admiral Han waiting with a security team. "Commander Park," the Admiral said formally. "You're needed in the diplomatic quarter immediately. There's been an incident." Admiral Han led Commander Park Jiho through corridors lined with both human and Valian security officers. Their faces were grim. No one would meet his eyes. "What's happened?" Joe asked, his stomach tightening with dread. The Admiral's voice was cold. "Your wife collapsed during negotiations. The Valian ambassador called it a Caridian response. Mean anything to you?" Jiho shook his head, but guilt made his heart race faster. They entered the diplomatic medical wing, where two Valian doctors stood guard outside a private room. Inside, Jiho stopped short at the sight of Nari. Her normally pale blue skin now rippled with complex patterns of bright light that pulsed and shifted. Her eyes, once soft violet, burned a deep crimson. She looked both beautiful and terrifying, like a storm captured in humanoid form. "Nari," he whispered, "what's happening to you?" "You know what happened," she said, her voice deeper than before. "You broke our bond." Senior Ambassador Lee Sunwoo stepped forward from the corner of the room. He was the highest-ranking human diplomat on the station. "Commander Park, the Valian Council has suspended all technology transfers and military cooperation," he said. 3 colony worlds are now vulnerable to Krell attacks without Valian defense systems." "I don't understand," Jiho said, though the truth was beginning to dawn on him. A Valian doctor approached with a medical scanner in her hand. "The mate bond is not symbolic for our species, Commander. It creates real biological connections between partners." She showed him readings on her scanner. When a bond is violated, the faithful partner undergoes Caridian, a transformation that enhances strength, intelligence, and certain psychic abilities. It's an evolutionary defense mechanism from our ancient history. "You never told me," Jiho said to Nari. "Would it have mattered?" she asked. Jiho had no answer. "Lieutenant Kim has been transferred to the Jupiter outpost," Admiral Han informed him. "But removing her doesn't solve our diplomatic crisis." Outside in the corridor, Jiho could hear arguing. The station, usually a model of interspecies cooperation, was fracturing. Human security officers were being eyed with suspicion by Valian staff. Some crew members were openly taking sides. "I need to speak with my wife alone," Jiho requested. When the others left, he approached Nari. "I'm sorry. I made a terrible mistake. In Valian culture, betraying a mate is worse than an act of war," Nari said. "Wars end. Broken bonds corrupt the foundation of society." "I didn't know." "You knew it was wrong," she interrupted. "The specific consequences don't change that fact." Her skin flashed brighter, and Jiho stepped back. "The Caridian response isn't just physical," she explained, her new voice strangely calm despite the storm of light across her body. "My mind is changing too. I can sense thoughts now, not clearly, but enough to feel deception." "What happens now?" Joe asked. "The Valian High Council arrives tomorrow. They will demand justice according to our customs. And if they don't get it..." Nari's transformed eyes fixed on him. "Then humans lose everything Valians have provided. Your colonies will be vulnerable. Your energy crisis will return. and the Krell will notice your weakness. That night, riots broke out in the civilian section of the station. Humans who had married Valians were being separated for their protection. Trade agreements were suspended. The peace that had taken decades to build was unraveling in hours. Commander Park was called to an emergency meeting with station leadership. The Valian Council demands you face something called Tainer, Admiral Han explained. It's their justice ritual. No human has ever undergone it. What does it involve? Joe asked. They won't say exactly. Their ambassador called it a telepathic examination, where the offender experiences the full pain they caused. Ambassador Lee looked grim. If you refuse, the alliance ends immediately. 3 colony worlds will lose Valian protection by tomorrow. Millions could die if the Krell attack. And if I agree? Joe asked. We don't know what it will do to a human mind, said the station's chief medical officer. I strongly advise against it. We can find another diplomatic solution. But Joe could see in their faces that they had already tried. The station's communication channels had been burning for hours with messages to Earth, to the Valian homeworld, to any authority that might help. This isn't just about you anymore, Admiral Han said. Your personal mistake has become an interstellar incident. Through the viewport, Jiho could see a Valian cruiser approaching the station, larger and more imposing than any he had seen before. The High Council had arrived. I'll do it, he said quietly. The room fell silent. I caused this. I'll face the consequences. The Valian ship dwarfed the space station, its crystalline surface reflecting starlight in mesmerizing patterns. Commander Park Jiho stood at the docking bay, watching as 7 members of the Valian High Council glided toward him. Their skin displayed the same glowing patterns as Nari's, though more controlled and intricate. Commander Park, said the tallest council member, whose patterns formed complex spirals across his face. I am Elder Miru. We will conduct the Tainer ritual. I'm ready, Jiho said, though his dry mouth and racing heart suggested otherwise. The human medical team tried one last time to stop him. We don't know what this will do to your brain, the chief doctor warned. No human has ever experienced Valian telepathy at this level. The Alliance must survive, Jiho replied simply. He was led aboard the Valian ship to a circular chamber. The walls pulsed with light that matched the patterns on the Valian skin. In the center stood Neri, her transformation now complete. She looked powerful in a way Joe had never seen before, no longer just a diplomat, but something more primal and dangerous. The Tainer ritual has 3 purposes, Elder Miru explained. Justice, understanding, and restoration. You will experience the pain you caused. You will understand the nature of our bond. And you will help restore balance between our species. Will it hurt? Joe asked. Yes, Nari answered. As I heard, the human delegation watched from a viewing area above the chamber. Admiral Han's face was grim. Ambassador Lee clutched a communication device, ready to report the outcome to Earth's leadership. Begin, ordered Elder Meru. The 7 council members formed a circle around Jiho and Neri. Their skin patterns synchronized, creating waves of light that flowed between them. Nari placed her hands on either side of Jiho's face. The first sensation was warmth, spreading from her fingertips into his temples. Then came the pain, not physical but emotional, a crushing wave of betrayal so intense that Jiho fell to his knees. He experienced exactly what Neri had felt when he betrayed their bond. The tearing sensation of something vital being ripped away. Hours passed as Jiho lived through each moment of pain he had caused, not just to Nari, but to others affected by his actions. He felt the disappointment of his crew who had looked up to his marriage as a symbol of cooperation. He experienced the fear of colonists whose protection now hung in balance. Through it all, he began to understand the Valian perspective on bonds and promises. Their biology had evolved to make trust sacred because their ancestors had needed absolute certainty in their partnerships to survive their harsh world. When the ritual entered its final phase, Jiho was barely conscious. Sweat soaked his uniform, and tears streamed down his face. The council members now directed their energy not just at him, but at Nari as well, creating a bridge between them. "The final choice is yours," Elder Maru told Nari. "As the wronged mate, you may sever the bond completely or allow a new understanding to form." Everyone expected Nari to cut the bond. It was her right under Valian law, and no one would blame her. Instead, she surprised them all. "I choose understanding," she said, "not to restore what was, but to create something new." A final surge of energy passed through Jiho, and he saw, truly saw, the complexity of Valian culture through Nari's eyes. When it ended, he remained on his knees, forever changed. "It is done," announced Elder Meru. The human medical team rushed in to check on Jiho. His vital signs were stable, but brain scans showed unusual activity in areas humans rarely used. "What did you do to him?" the chief doctor demanded. "We showed him truth," Nari answered. "He will recover, but he will never be the same." 3 days later, Jiho awoke in the medical bay. Admiral Han was waiting beside his bed. "The Valians have restored all defensive systems to the colonies," the Admiral reported. "The alliance holds, though with new terms." "And Nari?" Joe asked, his voice hoarse. "She has been named High Ambassador to Earth. Her transformation gives her unique abilities to bridge our cultures." Jiho nodded slowly. "And Lieutenant Kim remains at Jupiter Outpost. Some distances can't be bridged, Commander." In the following months, Jiho became valuable in a way no one expected. The Tainer ritual had given him insights into Valian culture that no human had ever possessed. He began training diplomatic teams, helping them understand the biological basis of Valian customs. 1 year later, as he prepared to transfer to Earth as a cultural liaison, Jiho encountered Nari at the station's departure bay. Her transformed appearance had become a symbol of strength rather than victimhood. "Was it worth it?" she asked. "Learning our ways through pain." Jiho considered the question carefully. Understanding always costs something. Sometimes we pay willingly, sometimes not. But in the end, it's always valuable. Nari's patterns shifted in what Jiho now recognized as acknowledgement. "You speak like a Valian now." "I see with new eyes," he replied. "That's your gift to me, even if it came through my mistake." As their ships departed in different directions, both carried the same message to their respective worlds. True understanding between species begins with respecting differences, not ignoring them. And some lessons can only be learned the hard way.